Welcome all. So we are going to discuss second part of this lecture on violence against women. In the first part we discussed the prevalent definition, types and factors related with violence against women. In this part we'll be discussing the consequences of violence and some of the measures that have been taken to curb violence against women in India. So, the consequences of all these violent activities against women could be classified under various categories. The first among these are injuries. Any violent activity results in injuries to the person who faced the violence. Most common injuries or less severe injuries are scratches, bruises, welts. If knife or guns are used, there might be injuries related to knife or gun wounds. And also in some severe cases, there are injuries related to broken bones, joints dislocations, severe internal bleeding, and etc. It is also seen that women facing violence activities have more general physical complaints and symptoms. These physical symptoms and complaints are different from injuries because injuries are visible, detectable, and curable by prevalent medical practices. However, these physical complaints are more general, usually stay for longer, and are usually remain unnoticed by medical professionals. These symptoms are poor health. Women after receiving violence generally show symptoms of poor health. They avoid eating, sleep is disturbed, and which result in poor physical health. They also show gastrointestinal disorders, problems of gas, indigestion, acidity. They have chronic pain. They are usually fatigued or show less energy, show dizziness. They lost their appetite, or in some cases women develop eating disorders, less eating or pathetic eating. In cases of sexual victimization, they may develop gynecological or urological disorders. Some women develop ill health behaviors in order to cope with the experience of victimization, which might include smoking or substance use, which may develop into abuse. And in some cases, women develop sex related problems such as disinterest in sexual activities later in life, or sexual dysfunction, which may involve overt or excessive sexual engagements. There are several mental health effects. Some common mental health effects of all kinds of victimization includes depression. After receiving sexual victimization, women show symptoms of depression. They are usually in sad mood, show depressive characteristics. They may also show symptoms of suicidal ideation. They may engage in suicidal attempts, and In some cases they commit suicide. Women with severe forms of victimization also develop symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder or categories of post-traumatic stress disorder such as sexual assault might lead to rape trauma syndrome. Intimate partner violence might lead to the development of battered woman syndrome. We'll be talking about these syndromes separately. And women might also develop alcohol or drug abuse and dependency. Now there are separate mental health effects of separate kinds of victimization. For example, in case of sexual assault or rape, one prevalent and more common mental health effect is shock. When someone is attacked, the first thing they experience is shock. That might be physical as well as mental, because it distorts their notion of the world. They may experience intense fear, and most of the cases they are numb. They have confusions related to their body, their society, their perceptions. They feel extreme hopelessness and helplessness. They have disbelief. Majority of the cases they experience self-blame. They blame themselves for what happened with them. Post-traumatic stress disorder. Anxiety disorders, which might include phobias and obsessive compulsive disorder. The circumstances in which these incidents happen develop phobia among women. So they have unexplained fear about things which were present at the time of violent activity, and majority of the cases they may also develop obsessive compulsive disorder, which may include excessive bathing, trying to cleaning again and again, overclothing, etc. They show symptoms of depression. They engage in suicidal attempts. They have sexual dysfunctions later in their life. Their self-esteem is reduced. They find it very difficult to engage in future relationships or continue their present relationships. And they use substance as a mean to cope with the anxiety they have developed due to the incidents. There are mental health effects of emotional abuse as well. Emotional abuse of women is associated with lower self-esteem. When women experience emotional or psychological violence from their partners, their members of their family or support group, they find it difficult to cope with that. They find it difficult to justify their self-worth, and thus they start believing that they are of no worth. They develop symptoms of depression. They also have somatic problems such as headache. They are always in complaint of physical health related problems which are more in psychosomatic in nature, and they may develop post-traumatic effects which might include battered woman syndrome. Again, there are several mental health effects of stalking. Victims of stalking experience considerable distress. So they are always in distress, thinking about what is going to happen. They find it difficult to go out of house. They find it difficult to open their social media platform. They found it difficult to check their messages, etc. Stalking activates their protective or help seeking responses. They always try to protect themselves. They try to avoid going out alone. They try not to talk to strangers or try not to stay at one place for longer time. Tajadin and Thones in their study found that almost 33% of self-reported stalking victims sought counseling. They developed mental health problems for which they needed counseling. About 25% of women lost their time from work. They could not work. About 22% women took extra precautions to avoid these stalking situations. 18% sought help from friends or family members, and 17% victims had to acquire a gun to protect themselves for a sense of security. So all these are effects of victimization, mental health effects or psychological effects of victimization women might face. Not only these, there are several economic effects also for these violent act against women. The economic effects include not only the victim but also their families and the society as a whole. The reason for this is that victimization of any kind have severe impact, financial impact for providing healthcare facilities, for providing mental health facilities, expenses on criminal justice system, and long-term secondary impact due to the inability of the victim to work normally. And in many of the cases, especially in sexual victimization cases, women are not able to find another job, and thus it also has severe economic impact on them personally, to their family, and to the society. Studies have found that about 40% of this economic loss is on medical expenses. About 44% of this loss is due to loss of property. And other than this, there is economic loss on pay. Either the victim is not able to continue her job, or they continue their job with less efficiency or proficiency, or they are not able to find a new job. And also there is enormous burden and cost to the healthcare system for maintaining and managing the health of these victims. Public money is also involved in the prosecution of offenders, and all kinds of criminal justice system is overburdened due to the increasing rates of violence. So all these have immense economic effect due to these victimization. Now let us discuss about violence of women against women in India. Violence against women in India. We find that despite the fact that Indian culture, prevalent religions give women a higher place in society, despite the fact that women are worshipped here, the rates and incidences of violence against women is not less than the global rates or even higher. If we try to think on the root cause of this higher rates of violence, despite our socio-cultural belief, we find that there are three major reasons. The first is widespread illiteracy. Women in India used to be believed to be within the vicious triangle of house, husband, and children. They are not expected to go out and work, and thus invest on their education is considered a wastage, due to which there is a high percentage of women that are illiterate. They don't know about their rights. They don't know about the available schemes and facilities for them, and thus they are forced to live within the situation of violence. There are also cultural barriers. Women are believed to be the housemaker. They are expected to maintain the unity of the family. They are expected to bear all the pressures and to behave normally for the sake of their family. And it is believed that a woman should not speak about their household matters to outside. They must keep quiet if some sort of violence had happened against them, to maintain the image and reputation of their family, and thus this becomes a major reason for their continued victimization. A third cause is subordination of women. Woman is considered a second-grade citizen in this country, despite the fact that several constitutional and legal provisions are there to give them equal rights. In socio-cultural spheres, woman is always considered secondary to men, and men have given socio-cultural power over women, and that is why it is very hard for the woman to speak against their victimization. The makers of our constitution were well aware about these facts, and thus they made several provisions for the benefit and protection of women in Indian constitution. The Indian constitutions give them equality and non-discrimination. The Indian constitution empowers the state to take all possible measures of affirmative discrimination in favor of women. So states can make rule in the favor of women, positive discrimination. They may give women more facilities than men. Apart from giving fundamental rights to the woman, the directive principles of state in Indian constitution always also give some specific provisions to ensure the rights of women. However, as we all can see, that despite all these constitutional provisions and legislations, gender discrimination and injustice continues to occur. The reasons are obvious, as discussed, that we have a strong socio-cultural belief that promote the victimization of women. There have been several legal provisions that were made to protect the rights of women. For example, the Factories Act 1948 enables a woman not to work beyond 8 hours and not to work beyond 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. So they may not be forced, and they should not be forced to work in night shifts. Maternity Benefit Act enables a woman to get maternity leave with full wages and full facilities. The Dowry Prohibition Act enables a woman to get married without the demand of dowry. The Equal Remuneration Act provides provision for equal wages for equal work. It simply says that for one kind of work, there should be equal payment for both men and women. So it prohibits discrimination against women in recruitment, service, and payment. Similarly, Child Marriage Restraint Act prohibits the marriage of a young girl child below the age of 18. Several provisions in Indian Penal Code under section 354 and 509 safeguards the interest of women against various criminal activities. The Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act safeguards the woman from unnecessary and compulsory abortions, especially that used to be done when it is confirmed that the pregnancy is of a girl child. The amendments to the Criminal Law 1983 enabled a woman in terms of provisioning a punishment of 7 years and up to 10 years in case of rape. 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment Act was done to reserve one-third of the seats in panchayat and urban local bodies for women. National Commission of Women Act was brought to set up a commission specially for women to review the constitutional and legal safeguards of women. The Protection of Human Rights Act is also there to protect the human rights of women. The Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act was brought in 2005, which ensured that women cannot be treated as for property and violence against her within the boundary of household is also under legal and judicial review. This act protected a woman from any conduct, misconduct, commission, injury which may lead them to physical, sexual, emotional, verbal, psychological, and economic abuse by intimate partners. The Protection of Women Against Sexual Harassment at Workplace Bill 2010 ensured that women is also safeguarded through the sexual harassment and at workplace. So all these provisions are there to help and to protect women against their potential victimization. Yet we will have to accept that the victimization of women is increasing day by day. The NCRB data, the National Crime Record Bureau data, shows that the cases of violence against women is increasing every year, and there is no sign of relief or decrease. We may also remember the Nirbhaya case, which took place in 2012 and generated widespread outrage not only in India but also abroad. This case was about a young woman who was gang raped and was subjected to fatal physical assault on 16th December 2012 in Munirka area in South Delhi. The victim died due to injuries and infection in a multi-speciality hospital in Singapore. The victim was named and quoted as Nirbhaya, which means fearless. And after her death, it resulted in a massive protest throughout the country. And due to this incident, the government was forced to set up a judicial committee to study and take public suggestions for recommending the best ways to amend laws to provide quicker investigation and prosecution of sex offenders. On the basis of the recommendations of this committee in 2013, the Criminal Law Amendment Ordinance 2013 was promulgated by Honorable President Pranab Mukherjee, and several new laws were passed and several old laws were amended in which the provisions of custody were made even strict and higher. Also, new fast-track courts were created to hear rape cases. After this incident, a Nirbhaya Fund was created by Department of Economic Affairs, Ministry of Finance, to address and help women who were being victimized. All these changes in the criminal law were commonly known as Nirbhaya Act. These changes were believed to be resulting in less victimization of women and were expected to create a condition in which women could feel safe and free from criminal activities, at least on the basis of their gender. However, we know that this has not been the case, and the victimization of women is still there, it's increasing, and we don't find any way as society to stop these victimization. So with this note, I'll end this lecture here. If you find any doubt, any clarification is needed, you can always talk to me on my private communication channels. Thank you. Jai Hind.